Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen with a double whammy of development updates for you today. We have the very brief yet very important roadmap update and a summary of Star Citizen's Persistent Universe monthly report, looking at what Cloud Imperium have been working on over the last few weeks and what they're focused on now in March. So let's start with the roadmap update. Star Citizen Alpha 3.17, the next major patch which we will start seeing tested within the next few weeks, is getting rivers, with the description of the feature here being, this tool allows rivers and basins to be further developed and ready for production use in order to enhance the ecosystems of our planets. The first implementation of this in the Persistent Universe is a Microtex river, so we're only getting one river to start with, it sounds like, but I didn't think we were going to have them in quite yet. The development gods are kind today, it seems, so seeing a river, big old river, in Star Citizen in 3.17, that sounds pretty awesome to me. On the progress tracker, the dynamic mission system has been added. This is going to allow select mission types to be dynamically tailored to the current environment and quantum at a later date. These missions will be customizable and payment will accurately reflect the distance traveled and risk involved. This has been added to the mission feature team schedule and is targeted for completion at the end of September, though could it be a Q4 release? We don't know. It's on the progress tracker. It's not on a release view. We'll have to wait and see. But this is a big part of making Star Citizen an engaging MMO and having lots of stuff for players to do and for that stuff to be appropriately represented in the economy. So really excited for that as well. Let's have a look at the Persistent Universe monthly report, starting with locations. Over the last few weeks, the Montreal-based locations team have completed their work on the new medical locations, with the Maria Pure of Heart Hospital on Lorville and Space Clinic Variations now ready for release. We're going to see these in Alpha 3.17. Levski's Hospital is considered complete for the time being as well. Obviously, that's another star system beyond Pyro, where they're going to have Levski's Hospital, though the team will return for a final polish and debug pass closer to its release. After completing the medical locations, the team moved on to Derelict Settlements, completing the white box stage for the first proof of concept location based around a crashed Aegis Reclaimer. This first settlement is a way to build and validate a full production pipeline to eventually produce derelict settlements on a larger scale. Now, we've actually seen Turbulent working on a use case for the derelict Javelin and building that into quite an interesting settlement. So I'm hoping to see ships used in a similar way on various scales, and maybe even ship graveyards made into large towns. The art team is creating the visual target. The design team has begun learning the mission system and subsumption systems to allow them to populate the location with gameplay, and the tools team is building a suite of procedural tools to improve productivity and quality. The artists also began looking at a potential crash site with a Crusader Mercury Star Runner and the Origin 600i. The rework of Lorville's cityscape kicked off too. The objective here is to first upgrade the visual scale of buildings so that they can then have sort of interior gameplay inside a load of these buildings, which would be absolutely awesome. So they're scaling them up, and they need to add interiors as appropriate. The tools team supported the locations team with derelict settlements, iterating on tools to help them assist with the scattering of them. The art team will use these tools to help scatter ship debris, and then they have VFX there to create interesting looking locations using this tool as well. But it can be used for loads of locations, and it just helps with all of it. The UI team progressed with visuals and the underlying features of the new star map. So we're getting an overhauled star map that they're working on. Super important because the current star map is a bit fiddly and not great. This included creating an in-editor concept and implementing the controls and marker icon transitions. So the Sandbox team moved the new outposts down the pipeline and began playtesting with the wider set of teams. Outposts are being placed on Pyro 3 for initial testing and layouts. We saw this at CitizenCon 2021. Makeup and composition progressed with design iterating on feedback to solidify gameplay experience there. They also began to add a wider variety of static modules to mix up the sub-themes scattered around the outskirts of these outposts. Elsewhere, art began early white box on derelict outpost variations. The team want to give a feeling of age and history, so they're creating several smaller exploration-driven spaces along with the main occupied buildings. Further work was done on Pyro's Skybox and Stanton's Lagrange points too. The team also began pre-production on a wider variety of space debris and interesting space structures that will allow them to create more interesting exploration opportunities in space. Narrative continued scripting and capturing dialogue for an upcoming dynamic event, might be a new one, with multiple characters and several non-linear objectives. It's one of the more complicated event scripts to date and required close coordination to ensure that every possible gameplay trigger was accounted for. The team also supported design on various upcoming features like refueling that require text, hints and items. Additionally, new documentation was created for branding and environmental storytelling throughout the verse, including the pyro system. Another focus was on proposing new mission character archetypes with the hopes of eventually populating locations with new ways to interact with NPCs and find missions. Lighting team, they began working on a major event planned for later this year, progressing with various minor areas before the key locations are available for a full pass. Hopefully this is something like, I don't know, either a new event or maybe it's potentially seeing Orison have the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo sort of hall there, because they have lots of uses beyond just using them for the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo. Having these large interiors at each of the major landing zones at the moment just gives a load of sort of potential and choice for future missions and ideas and large-scale expos or whatever they want to do in-game. Progress was also made on Pyro space stations, with the team focusing on colder and less hospitable corners of these locations. Let's take a look at ships. The UK ship team progressed with the Miscull A, finalising the interior lighting, completing levels of detail, and working on a damage pass. The RSI Scorpius is close to final art complete as well. The wings were finished and added to the main body. We know that they were sort of, they made a single wing and then they mirrored them for the other wings with working animations for them as well, while the cockpit is currently in the polish phase with the final details being added. The LOD and so levels of detail and damage passes are underway too. The Banu Merchantman is making fantastic progress. It is now white box complete and due to start its Greybox phase. The team are currently researching and developing materials to establish the ship's final look. Two unannounced vehicles are also approaching Greybox and final art respectively. The latter received work on the levels of detail and will receive final lighting, tints and damage passes shortly. The US team spent most of their time finishing out the Drake Vulture, creating a series of paints and cut-in patterns to allow a wider range of customization options. After addressing bugs, most of the team moved to finalizing the levels of detail on that ship. They also then worked to create a quality bar for the Drake Corsair. An updated kit was created and the cockpit and mess hall were brought to final art. They also made changes to the ship's layout after seeing that some areas were negatively affecting the player experience, such as trapping players in the cockpit and manned turrets. The features team continued to develop salvage gameplay, with them saying the use of damage mapping was mentioned in a previous report and it's showing a lot of promise. However, there is still work to be done to reach the level of fidelity and persistence that we're looking for visually. The actual gameplay is progressing well too. I love the fact that it sounds like that even in the first stage of salvage, we're going to get some interesting looking damage model stuff, which is going to then be iterated and built upon rather than just discarded or used as a placeholder. Currently, the multi-tool with salvage attachment is used to salvage material from physical parts with damage maps and then reapply the same material to repair them. Work also began on a dedicated salvage and repair tool that will offer better stats compared to the multi-tool attachment. On the technical side, the team also looked at improving movement synchronization when viewing other players. The priority is always to tackle complete desync bugs where a player doesn't appear at all in the correct place, though this work involves improving how other players appear on a client screen. The team are aiming to achieve improved fidelity without increasing latency, and last month saw locally simulated characters reliably playing locomotion stop animations. The EU Persistent Universe team continued their polish work and integration tasks for refueling, which is launching in Alpha 3.17. Development also continued on life support systems and engineering gameplay. The team also took over vehicle functionalities for salvage mechanics, and the weapons team continued to work on the fire extinguisher required for fire gameplay and potentially some of that engineering gameplay, or at least damage control. They're currently wrapping up final art on the dedicated salvage tool as well. The vehicle features team focused moved on technical initiatives. This included the transit system, which requires a rework to function under server meshing. This is because transit carriages need to simulate and continue operating when no one is around, because, you know, they're on rails or moving around like trains. This was previously solved by ensuring the carriages never stream out, unlike most objects. However, this isn't possible with server meshing, so the team are exploring solutions to allow them to simulate when no one's around, which is very interesting. Improvements were also made to restricted areas, which involved reworking tools for the level designers to create restricted areas faster and easier. However, this will result in functional changes for players at some point. Minor improvements and updates were also made to features relating to upcoming ships. Vehicle tech improved various things with doors and elevators, making them easier to use and actually work more appropriately, and generally got things to work better with network sync and just sort of working properly in-game. VFX saw continued work on salvage effects, including using particle emitter strength curves to show when there's nothing left to salvage in a chosen area. Aside from the gaping hole in the hull, the ember and particle matter will stop spawning from the impact area. The artists are collaborating with the weapons feature team to create the best possible player experience when this feature goes live in a future release. Elsewhere, pre-production was also completed and production began on the Miscull A. An effects pass was done on the Maria Pure of Heart Hospital, including the purification scanner that sterilizes the player when passing through the entrance. Systemic tools and services continued to work on internal tools, wrapping up the development of automation and scheduling for dynamic events, which will be used when manual activation isn't appropriate anymore. Service-wise, they expanded the NPC tracker to include various in-game events and make them available for use in the future. I also want to say that manual activation not being appropriate in the future, that's not going to be true of all events. Some events will be manually activated and it will make sense for them to be manually activated as well. Support for expanded selling features continued. They worked with gameplay teams on final elements, edge cases, and general polish, so that they're sort of working as intended. The animation team worked through issues with vendors, security, vending machines, and carrying and surrendering. They also progressed with general security and emote facial animations. Character art worked on a subscriber flight suit for Q3 and continued to develop the Frontier outfits, debuting with Pyro. They also created Ninetales themed material variants for use later in the year. That sounds interesting. It sounds like they're expanding out either the Ninetales lockdown or Ninetales based missions associated around that and the Ninetales sort of faction. Concept art work wrapped up on salvage specific backpacks and a selection of Pyro Gang outfits, and then they moved on to Frontier outfits. The new DNA system continues to be upgraded, and they're pushing for higher fidelity in their character models and movements. Some other bits, development of the overhauled community hub continues, and they are very excited to show us more on that soon. The player relations team is also recruiting extensively for live QA, tripling the number of team members to improve service stability and publish quality. This should actually make a big improvement in sort of bug fixing and those issues that we get from every major patch, that you should be able to solve a lot more of them, and we should get a lot more stable builds. That's the hope from that. That makes a lot of sense. Just a couple more things. Turbulence online services split their time between anti-cheat, login flow, and reputation system initiatives. For anti-cheat, they implemented a new SDK to solve issues for Linux and Windows users using special characters. Anti-cheat logs have been also closely monitored, and several hotfixes were made in preparation for infraction enforcement. The login and document services were finalized for the overall login flow. These services constitute around a third of the overall effort needed for this project that aims to improve performance and fits into a wider global server meshing project. Following significant engagement during community events, performance improvements were made to the reputation system. The team also took the opportunity to shift the stack to follow changes in the stack made for server meshing. The live tools team transitioned one of the key dev tools to the new hosting technology, delivering minor feature improvements along the way. The Hex project, the Game Master tool, made significant progress throughout the month, shifting the Network Operations Center to its new UI and enabling all other tools in Hex to leverage the new UI structure. Turbulent also pushed forward with backlog and tech debt cleanup in preparation of the year ahead. So this is more regarding the web platform, the RSI website, and associated things to that, as well as like Spectrum, all that sort of jazz. They worked to resolve current issues as well, expand the library to evolve components and give a more structured design system. They also prepared the way for upcoming in-game events, adding new features to better showcase vehicles. Boom! That's it for your roadmap and monthly report updates today. Woot! Rivers, or at least a river on Microtech in Alpha 3.17. Very excited for that. There is some good progress on features and gameplay area in this month's report, so that was great to hear. But what do you think? Are you expecting Alpha 3.17 to be a great patch? Will we see it in Open PTU at least by the end of the month? Are you excited for the Bandit Merchantman and the progress it's being made? Could it be something we see towards the end of the year, or is that crazy talk? I mean, it is making great progress, but it is a big, complicated ship. Are you looking forward to salvage in Alpha 3.18? Hopefully that won't slip. Do you think we might see Pyro and Alpha 4.0 by the end of the year? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Also, we will be covering the Squadron 42 monthly report in another video. We will include engine, AI, and NPC stuff with that report as well. I am French and sophisticated. I am also French and also sophisticated. Let us go on a date. Neither of these people are French or sophisticated. It was me doing a funny voice, as well as showing the horrors of dating online and what happens if you accidentally catfish yourself with 2 of your own accounts. But French people don't talk like that even. No one does. NordVPN can make you appear to be in France, but it doesn't make you French, as I've now found out. It can be used to improve security or give you more accessibility to the internet. I can watch all my favourite shows. Get yourself NordVPN today in the links below and maybe be a better version of yourself. Now that's shilling for you. Every month we have a Star Citizen ship giveaway, and March is no different. We have a Crusader Industries Mercury Star Runner. This multi-crew, multi-role, cargo and data running ship is my favourite ship in the game. It has loads of little smuggling holes, it's got a good amount of armament, it can do a little bit of everything in the game at the moment. To be in for a chance of winning it, just comment on any of my videos made during March. More details in the description below. Please consider liking, subscribing, and potentially even clicking that join button under my videos to help further support the channel. Share the videos around with your friends and family. You'll occasionally get exclusive videos, posts, and polls that help influence the channel, along with emotes and badges to show your support. It really does help. There's also a Patreon and direct donations tool for those inclined. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you have a great March 2022!